respectively. And now we are jumping into UFC Fight Night, Pavlovich versus Blaydes. This fight card from top to bottom is actually quite nice. It is a very low key banger of a card. Not a ton of hype behind it, but every single fight in here has something to look forward to. So we are going to quickly run through this card almost as if it was a lightning round of sorts, and just kind of highlight fights as we go up, and then we will get into a couple of the more serious fights once we get into the later half of the card here. So we'll go back and forth one for one, and we'll exchange thoughts and picks, and we'll go from there. So let's start here. Mark, why don't you start with us first here? Brady Highstand fighting Batragel Dana, bantamweight fight. Who are you picking?
I like Brady Highstand. I liked him on Tough. I've been high on him. I kind of think he's a little too easy to hit to get past someone who hits as hard as Dana does right now. So I will go Batgarel Dana, round 2 knockout.
Very nice. I like Highstand too. I think he's a very determined kid. You can see that he has a lot of fight back in him. I do think Dana hits very, very hard, and I do think he will get tagged. But I think Highstand has a chin, and I think he can make the adjustments. So I'll go with Highstand by unanimous decision. I think he can take 2 out of the 3.
Nice. All right, I'll cue you up now, so we're taking turns. Next fight, Priscilla Cachoeira versus Karine Silva.
I like
flyweight, I want to say.
Flyweight, yes. No, you're good there. I like Cachoeira here, man. She's not always the most technical fighter in there, but the woman is a brawler. She's a scrapper for sure. Karine is a little bit more of a killer, I would say. It's got a ton of finishes, one way or the other. But I think I'm going to say Cachoeira here, man. I think it's going to be a real crazy fight, and I think overall these girls are going to try to finish each other, but in the end, I think it'll go to decision. So I'm going to go Cachoeira by unanimous decision.
I've been high on Karine Silva in her couple fights so far. Her jits is just so filthy. It's giving me pause that Cachoeira looks like such a beast lately. She's rolling. She's won 4 or 5. It definitely seems like she has found a groove for herself and found how she needs to fight. But I'm going to stick with what I have seen in Silva and trust that and say that she can tap Cachoeira here. So I will say round 2 sub for Silva.
Very nice. All right. Francis Fire Marshall versus William Gomis. Go ahead and get us going, Mark.
Featherweight fight here. Both of these guys in their second fight in the UFC. Both guys are 1-0, I believe. Am I right on that? Is Francis Marshall 1-0? Yes, he is. Both won their debuts. Marshall was in kind of more impressive fashion. Gomis was a split, if I recall, or a majority, something like that.
Majority.
But I like him. I remember the card he debuted on. It was that French card with Gana Tuivasa, and I remember being intrigued by his talent. I'm going to roll with him to be a bit more well-rounded, bit slicker, and win a UD over Francis Marshall.
Yeah, I really like Francis Marshall, man. I remember him from the Contender Series and having sort of a story about being a firefighter, kind of very similar to the whole Stipe thing. So I'm going to roll with Francis Marshall here. I do think that Gomis is very good. He was a very technical fighter when we saw him on the Gone card. But I'm going to roll with the wrestling of Francis Marshall and the striking that he has as well. So I'll go with Francis Marshall by unanimous decision.
Nice. Next one, at heavyweight. The return of the heavyweight tough winner recently, the brother of Kamaru Usman, Muhammad Usman, and he will be fighting the brother of Justin Tafa in the UFC, which is Junior Tafa. So Muhammad Usman and Junior Tafa.
I still need to see these two men in the same room together. Like Junior Tafa and Justin Tafa look exactly alike. So I still need to see them in the same room together. I don't really know much about Junior Tafa, man. I haven't seen any of his performances. I should have looked up the Risen fight that's probably online somewhere. But much to the family name, he's knocking dudes out left and right. Muhammad Usman, having won the Ultimate Fighter, is still very far, in my opinion, from being that dude. I'm not completely sold on him and his approach. I think a lot of the guys they got for that heavyweight division of the Ultimate Fighter, I don't want to be a dick, but I don't think they were very good. I think trying to find really elite and really good heavyweights right now is a very difficult thing to do, which is why we have guys like Pavlovich surging up the goddamn heavyweight rankings because there's like no one else. So with that in mind, I'm not completely sold on Usman. I know he has a game. I know he has a game plan. I know he has a route that he goes for victory. But I'm going to go with the younger kid here, man. I'm going to take the Mike approach. I'm going to go with the 26-year-old. I'm going to roll with somebody who I think is going to be more aggressive. I think who's going to want to fight more. If there's one thing I took away from the Muhammad Usman tenure that we've seen so far is the man shies away pretty badly from getting hit. And in the heavyweight division, having that kind of reaction to shots is going to get you hit. So I think if Tafa puts hands on him, I think he goes down like a sack of shit. So I'm going to go with Junior Tafa, first round KO.
So to make you feel even better about your point, there is a wealth of kickboxing experience behind Junior Tafa.
Let's go. Okay.
So, yeah, the comfort level of Muhammad Usman and the striking is not my favorite. I don't think that he is any great wrestler where he can 100% lean on that. Is it possible? I guess. I don't know quite what Tafa's takedown D looks like. But if he has some of it, I think that this is probably going to go badly for Usman. So I will say Junior Tafa, round 2 knockout.
Dog, are they the same size, though? Like, it says Muhammad Usman is around 237 and Tafa walks around at 240. Like, that's crazy. I feel like Usman is a gigantic human being.
Yeah, I kind of thought he was bigger than that, too. That's interesting. Yeah. Huh.
I wonder what he weighs in at then. I'm going to take a closer look at that this upcoming weekend because I'm curious to see what Usman is weighing in at these days.
Yeah.
All right. Your turn.
Yeah, your turn. Your turn to cue.
Very good. All right. Next on the list, we have a featherweight fight. The elusive women's featherweight division has shown its head again with our girl Norma Dumont fighting Carol Rosa. We'll go for it, Mark. Where do you think this fight's going?
Yeah, so Rosa moves up here. I forget if it's Rosa or Hosa. Might be Hosa. But either way, steps up here to take a featherweight fight to give Norma Dumont something to do, since she just kind of chills there as the only featherweight there is at this point in time. So yeah, Carol Hosa is, I want to say she might still be ranked top 10 at women's bantamweight. She's looked pretty solid. I like Dumont. She's an effective game. She has turned back similarly ranked girls to Hosa. She beat Macy Chasson. She beat Aspen Ladd, if I recall. Yeah. But I think Hosa might have the right game to get it done. I think she is a similar level of striker and that she can probably lean on the wrestling and maybe steal it that way. Dumont's tough and she's got size and maybe she's not going to be so easy to take down, but I'm torn on it and I will lean toward the wrestling as the differentiator here. So I'll go Carol Hosa UD.
I'm going to roll with my girl, Norma Dumont.
I thought you would.
You know I will. Norma Dumont's only got 2 losses to Macy Chasson and Megan Anderson.
Oh, she
Megan
lost
Anderson,
to Macy? Wow.
She did. Megan Anderson is like 7 feet tall. I don't know who's trying to get away from those limbs. Megan put her out, though, but that's neither here nor there.
Right, I remember that one.
I think Norma's a decent fighter, man. I think she's got good, solid fundamentals. You know, she's not a flashy fighter. She's not a highlight reel fighter in any stretch of the imagination, but she is a worker, and she is somebody who goes in there and scraps. She is single-handedly keeping the 145 division alive. Girl is fighting like 2-3 times a year at this point, all at at 145 for the most part. And I think she does it again, man. She's coming off of a win off of Danielle Wolf, a decision win, and I think she's going to get another one under her belt as well. So I'm going to go with Dumont by unanimous decision.
Nice. Okay, next one, we move to the bantamweight division for the size mismatch of the card, which is Ronnie Yaya against Montel Jackson.
So you explain to me when Ronnie Yaya isn't at a size disadvantage.
Well, I mean, sure.
He is a
Montel Jackson is huge. For reference, Montel is 4 inches taller and is going to have a 7.5-inch reach advantage.
I wonder what he's supposed to walk at, because he looks like he cuts a good amount of weight. That man is, there's no fat on him at all.
No, not much.
I like Hani Yaya. I've been a fan of his for a while. When did this kid make his debut? 2011, dog. When they were still doing Fighting for the Troops, those Fight for the Troop events.
And he was a WEC name before that.
That's true.
We've known him since WEC.
2008, if we include WEC.
There you go.
No, 2007 was his WEC debut.
There you go.
Dude, I mean, he's been around for a long time. Inconsistent a little bit here and there, but usually goes on a little bit of a run before he ends up losing. So he'll go 3 and then lose 1 and then another 4 and then lose a couple. But he's a problem, man. And his jits is pretty nasty. His ability to submit is really, really good. Crazy thing is he's got 28 wins, 10 losses, but he's got no KOs on his record. All of his wins are by submission. That dude, or most of his wins are by submission. 21 submissions and 7 decisions. 1 draw, 1 no contest, but that doesn't matter. So Montel Jackson, like you said, is a gigantic human being as well, up and comer. His last fight against Julio Arce was a great fight and a great accounting of kind of where he's at and the skills that he brings to the table. I thought that was a close fight, a very well contested fight, but I thought he did win that fight if I remember right. I see Hani Yaya having some success in this fight, but I think Montel Jackson is going to end up taking this one in the end. I see Hani Yaya having success early in round 1, but I think by 2 and 3, Montel Jackson takes over. So I'm going to go with Jackson by unanimous decision.
I think this one could be bad. I think that the size is a big factor. I kind of think they want Ronnie to lose. He kind of is like this old dude that just doesn't go away. I think Jackson's too big. He's a good wrestler, so I'm not sure what kind of success Ronnie has in taking him down. So I think it could end up getting ugly. I will say that he will knock out Ronnie Yaya in, I'll say round 2, just because Yaya's tough.
Dog, when was the last time Hani Yaya had a relevant win? Like, never.
Yeah, he beats a lot of random names. That's for sure.
Literally the first one that really pulls up, that strikes the eye, is Mike Brown.
In 2011, yeah. Just I'm looking at it too.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
For all the winning that Hani Yaya does, none of it actually means anything.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, let's keep rolling. Keep rolling. It's getting late. Next fight. Wait, no, your turn.
My turn. Yeah. Ricky Glenn versus Christos Giagos. Mark, go ahead.
Okay, lightweight fight here. Giagos is a guy who is always tough. I don't think he's an easy guy to beat, but by any means, even in his losses, he tends to give dudes battles. But I do think Ricky Glenn is better. The performance he had against Grant Dawson, I feel like, really showed a lot of how good he is. And even back when he was at featherweight, the performance he had against Gavin Tucker, there's just, when Glenn is on, he is on. So I'm going to go with him here. I think he's just tougher, a bit more of a dog. I will say Ricky Glenn, UD.
Yeah. I think both of these guys are pretty inconsistent. I think that's what makes this fight difficult to pick. I think on any given day, both of these guys have the ability both to win and probably the same amount of percentage to lose. I'll go with Ricky Glenn just based off of the strength of the resume, based off of some of the wins, even some of the losses that he's had as well. Even a win over Dennis Bermudez back in 2018, split win, but a hard-fought fight for sure. I think he does well here. I think it's probably going to be a very close, contested fight. I wouldn't be surprised to see a split decision, so I will go Glenn by split.
Nice. Okay, moving on. We cross over to the main card. So we're only doing big previews of 3 fights here. Just as you guys have noticed, if you've been watching this whole episode, there were a million things to do this episode. We're still trying to get to the boxing, so a couple of these main cards are going to be in our quick previews as well. First one is at welterweight, Jeremiah Wells versus Matt Semmelsberger. Who falls down first?
Matt Semmelsberger is a very unassuming guy because I feel like when you look at him, even when you look at the way he fights, you don't really take much away from it visually, but he's effective. And his strikes look like they suck. Jeremiah Wells is probably, from a visual standpoint, the guy that looks better, right? The guy that looks more impressive. Visually, he looks like the more physically imposing person. Has gotten the KOs, got the knockout, got the submission wins. But Semmelsberger is a sneaky little bastard, and every time you think you've got him pegged, he comes right back and he wins somehow. With all that being said, I'm still going to pick against him. I'm going to go with Jeremiah Wells, and I'm going to go with unanimous decision.
So Jeremiah Wells has looked really good in the UFC thus far. He hasn't beat like a big deal name quite yet. Obviously, like a vet in Court McGee, guys like that. Semmelsberger is definitely at a higher level than him at this point. I do think this could absolutely go either way. Both guys carry big power. Not even sure who I think carries the bigger power. I guess we're gonna find out. But by law, I have to go with Matt Semmelsberger because I fucking love Jake Matthews, and he somehow just beat Jake Matthews, which I didn't see coming in a million years. So I now have to pledge my allegiance to Matt Semmelsberger and ride with him. So I will say that he wins this fight. I will say it's a late round 2 TKO for Matt Semmelsberger.
Yeah, no. Nope.
You're
I need Jake Matthews to get that one back because that's bullshit.
Yeah, I still can't. I don't understand it, but yeah.
All right. Do you want to give me this one? Because I really want this one.
Yasmin Lucindo moves up to women's flyweight after debuting at women's strawweight to take on the tough runner-up Brogan Walker.
I am a huge fan of Lucindo off of the one fight I saw against her and Yasmin Hadagui, where they both debuted together at the same time on the main card of Vera Cruz back in August of 2022. Scrapper. This girl's hands are fucking crazy. They're absolutely ridiculous. Both of them were Hadagui's as well. If you guys have been listening to the podcast for a while, I've been high on Hadagui even since that fight as well. I think she's had at least one fight since then, right? Just one.
Yep, one.
And she looked fucking nasty in that one too and knocked that girl out. I think Ismael Lucindo and Yasmin Hadagui, I think they arguably probably had their hardest fights getting into the UFC against each other than they probably will going forward in this division. I think Lucindo eats Brogan Walker alive. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Brogan Walker is a good fighter. She is a dog for sure. That is definitely a girl that doesn't quit on herself and definitely tries to walk through the fire if she can. But she lacks a lot of different things, especially in the striking department. And I just think Lucindo is way too tuned up, way too zoned in to allow Walker to walk out of there, no pun intended, without major damage. So I'm going to go with Lucindo by second round TKO.
Yeah, I too was impressed with Lucindo in her debut. I kind of am starting to feel like we may have been fooled a little bit about how good Brogan Walker was from what we watched on Tough. I really did not love what I saw from her in the finale against Juju Miller. And then we've now seen Juju Miller get pretty much worked by Veronica Hardy. So I'm not super high on Brogan Walker right now. We'll see. It's only been one fight, so maybe she comes out looking much different, and I'll have to change my tune here. But I'm also going to roll with Lucindo. I will say a UD win for her.
Nice.
All right. We've made it to the real previews.
Yes, sir. All right, let's jump right into just a little bit more detailed previews here, starting off with Bobby Green versus Jared Gordon. Mark, go ahead and go first.
All right, so Bobby Green is the favorite here. He's minus 260. Jared Gordon is plus 210. There is 1 inch of height and 3 inches of reach on the side of Bobby Green. I got it wrong in Bobby Green's last fight. I picked him over Drew Dober. Really thought he could get that done. Obviously, he got dropped pretty badly, but I am ready to ride with him again here, and even more confidently than I was in that one. I don't know. I've said it before on the show. I've never been a huge Jared Gordon guy. I get it that he kind of keeps doing well. Obviously, a lot of people thought he beat Patty. I don't think he can hang with Bobby Green on the feet. I think Bobby can really play his game in the striking here and pick Gordon apart. I don't think Gordon possesses the level of wrestling necessary to be able to take the fight over that way. He has some, but Bobby's takedown D and his get-up ability is generally pretty good. So I think we end up seeing a typical Bobby Green fight. You know, hands down, Gordon whiffing a lot, Green kind of playing with him, Green peppering and getting back on track. So I'm going to go Bobby Green, UD in style.
100% agree. I won't repeat a lot of things you just said, but I do think that Gordon is not going to be able to do anything significant in any area of the fight. I think Bobby Green is better everywhere. I don't really trust Gordon's wrestling. I think we saw the difficulty he got against Patty Pimblett, who's kind of known for not really having the best takedown defense, and Gordon was barely able to do anything with it. Bobby Green is much more complicated to take down, even more complicated to hold down. And he will talk shit to you, and he will continue to hit you from the bottom all at the same time. I think Bobby Green is just overall a better fighter, definitely more experienced. He's got his losses. Those losses, though, come from scraps. A lot of the time, these guys are getting into some real shit and getting on the wrong side of these unanimous decisions. But at no point have I ever watched a Bobby Green fight, maybe with the exception of the Islam Makhachev fight as things tend to go, where I felt like Bobby Green didn't deserve to be in there and didn't deserve to be, getting the fighting recognition that he deserves. So I'm going to go with Bobby Green here. I also think he is going to go unanimous decision. I don't think he ends up putting Gordon out, but I do think he styles on him for 3 rounds.
All right, we're in the same boat there. I'll cue you up for this one. We get to the newly minted co-main. As we mentioned, Ricky Simone and Yadong Song were on this card. Got bumped 1 week. They're going to main event next week. So the new co-main is going to be a middleweight fight between Brad Tavares, longtime UFC mainstay, kind of in the gatekeeper role these days, taking on Bruno Silva, a man who had some hype and has fallen on a little bit of a hard times as of late. Where are you going in this one?
This is such a difficult fight, man, because both of these guys are in such weird positions, right? Like, Bruno Silva is the kind of guy where skill for skill, I think I would pick him over Brad Tavares. I think he's a very good fighter. I think he's crazy strong. He throws with such power. But he has dropped the last 2, and he didn't look great against the he did look good against Alex Pereira.
Oh, that one, yeah.
They were saying especially especially knowing now what we know about Alex Pereira and how good he is in the striking and things like that. But he also lost against Gerald Merchet in a via submission guillotine choke.
And he looked awful.
He didn't look great. He did not look great. But Brad Tavares is one of those guys that's also inconsistent. Brad Tavares could look really good until he's just not. And that's kind of unfortunately the story of a lot of the performances that don't go his way is he'll look good until he doesn't. And I feel like this is one of those performances where it might just go that way. So I'm getting that feeling. I'm going to end up going Bruno Silva. I will go Silva by unanimous decision. I think Tavares takes probably the first round or two. First round, little bit of the second, but I think Silva picks up, takes the second and the third.
All right, so fairly close. Tavares is a minus 165 favorite. Bruno Silva is plus 130 as the underdog. I don't know. It's a tough one. I was really high on Bruno Silva at one point. Not high to the point that I thought he could be like a champion, but that I thought he was a surefire, ranked contender type of guy on the come up. Even when he lost to Alex Pereira, I thought that he had a very good showing of himself. Close fight, hung with him in the striking. And then the Gerald Meerschaert fight happened, and he looked like the fucking Monstars. I couldn't remember what they were called in Space Jam when they lose their powers. I guess it was the basketball players. This analogy just got fucked. But you know what I mean. It looked like his powers were just gone. Like, I didn't know what I was watching. I was super confused. And Brad Tavares, if nothing else, is a really good gatekeeper. Like, you take away what is his name? You take away the head kick loss to Edmund Shabazian that he had. And other than that loss, his only losses in any recent years are Robert Whittaker, Izzy, and Dricus du Plessis. So Brad Tavares, you got to be pretty good to get past that dude. And there's definitely the potential that Bruno Silva possesses the skills to do that, but I'm just so baffled by what I watched in his last performance that I don't feel comfortable enough picking it until I see him look like the guy I had been watching prior to that. So I got to stay off him for at least one fight here. And I do like Brad Tavares. He's really good, man. He's really technical. He could win this just by virtue of being too difficult for Silva to win enough exchanges against. And I'll say Tavares wins a competitive UD.
Nice. All right, man. We have made it. Main event time. Curtis Blaydes versus Sergei Pavlovich. Heavyweight time. Up-and-comer Sergei Pavlovich fighting the established Curtis Blaydes. Mark, go first and tell us what you think.
All right. I'm shooting a text to Tommy so he knows it is almost time for the boxing. Okay. So, yeah, fucking huge main event here. Very possible that the winner of this main event is going to be fighting the winner of Bones and Stipe, assuming Bones and Stipe is ever happening. Probably likely that that's what happens to the winner here. So huge main event, huge implications. The favorite, who do you think the favorite is?
If it were me picking, I'm Pavlovich, I think would be the favorite.
Curtis Blaydes, minus 170.
Wow. Good for him, though.
Sergei Pavlovich, plus 140. So, obviously, people have questions about the wrestling of Pavlovich. I believe they're the same exact height, but Pavlovich will have a 4-inch reach advantage, which I do think is a factor. Look, Curtis Blaydes is very good. I think with the power and accuracy that Sergei Pavlovich possesses, it's really hard to pick against him when he's standing across from a guy that we know can be chin-checked. We've seen it before. And yes, Blaydes' striking has been improving tremendously. He just got a knockout recently where he looked great. Yes, he's an elite wrestler, and we don't know what Pavlovich's takedown D or bottom game necessarily look like at all. But, God, all he's got to do is land one. And I know that's a bullshit saying and all that, but it's true when we're talking about Sergei Pavlovich. Like, it's scary, scary power. Everyone he has landed on has melted. Everything he throws seems to land on the button. He has 4 inches of reach, which is a lot. And Curtis Blaydes, we know, does not react well to big power. Plus, he, as I kind of mentioned, he is striking a lot more lately. And you never know how dumb guys are going to fight. So he better be 100% wrestling in this fight, because if he plays around on the feet, then I'm even more confident in Pavlovich. You got to hope Blaydes is coming in here looking to be a wrestler. So who knows? It's absolutely a question mark what the defensive wrestling of Sergei Pavlovich looks like. And with a guy as good as Blaydes, nothing would surprise me here. But I've just seen him be too afraid of power coming back at him too many times. He just he gets a little tentative. He'll get frozen at times because he wants to make sure he's not getting caught, and then he gets caught. So I will go with a round 2 knockout for Sergei Pavlovich.
I like it. I have been pretty high on Pavlovich for a while now. We talked about the accuracy, we talked about the power, but it's also his calmness in there and kind of his comfort level inside of the octagon. And you see a lot of guys kind of, I think he fucked up against Alistair Overeem for that reason where, debut fight. I think it was short notice at that, and it's Alistair Overeem. But he's come back, and he has been wrecking dudes left and right. He hasn't come out of the first round in his UFC tenure at all. And I think he keeps that streak going, man. Curtis Blaydes is a good fighter, no doubt. He's an even better wrestler, I think, but it's heavyweight. And you really don't need much. And once guys are really technical at heavyweight, these long, prolonged wars generally don't tend to happen. Maybe once we get to the very elite, the tippity top, where the guys are so good they're barely hitting each other and maybe getting a couple shots off here and there. But for the most part, a lot of these guys here tend to put hand on chin and they're going to sleep. Pavlovich to me is that guy, and that's what he's going to be looking for. Curtis Blaydes, I don't think he's going to be looking to put hands on chin. I think he's going to be looking for a complete performance where there's takedowns involved, and that's fine. I think that's the way he needs to go. But if Pavlovich is able to put hands on Curtis Blaydes' chin, any part of it, Curtis Blaydes is going down. I am very, very reliant, or I'm very, very confident that Pavlovich can do that. I think it's a big spot for him. I think this is his breakout here. Even having fought Derek Lewis and Taito Ivasa already and beating them in crazy fashion, I think this is the one that really is going to set him apart. Round 1, KO, Pavlovich.
We will see. It would be quite a statement if he goes out there and in the first 5 or 10 minutes knocks Blaydes out cold, and you're looking at that guy saying that's who John Jones may end up with next.
How do you not?
Be a big billing. Big billing.
Worst case scenario, he fights Cyril Gane as an interim, not an interim belt, but like in the interim.
Yeah.
If things get a little weird with the booking of Jones and Stipe, but
right.
Pavlovich is right there, man, and I don't really see him going away anytime soon.